Hey, this is Carlita Wright. And, today I want to do something a little bit different. I wanted to get live on camera and kind of just talk about um, what's happening today. Today is November the 5th. Today is election day. And, I think it's just a day that I could not wait to get here. Now that it's here, I'm super, super excited. But to be honest with you, like I haven't voted yet. And I am unfortunately one of the little stragglers. And to be honest with you, I didn't know if I don't I still kind of am torn if I want to vote. Something's telling me I probably should vote. But honestly, I am not excited about the whole situation. Like this is not what I had envisioned for an election. But kind of just want to go through my thought process and I commit to myself that I will record this video, document my thoughts, and share them, and then force myself to go vote. So I have been in and out. I have been paying attention to the election. In and out though, like not really fully engaged. It's a little bit frustrating at times. I have some pros and cons for both sides. But today, what I want to do is I want to go over some of the issues that both candidates are having based on my own ideas and what I believe, the values that I have, and make a decision. When I go to the ballot, I want to make a decision. And but when I do, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do a review of the websites, the policies, but I'm gonna base it off of engineering or a scientific background. I use my science background to kind of help me determine. I'm not gonna use identity politics. I'm not gonna focus on personality. I'm not gonna use emotionalism to make this decision. I'm gonna go straight off of the cuff and look at their websites. So I don't know if you all can see me, but I am on the screen. And here are both candidates' websites side by side. And I'm gonna give my opinion, just talk through it. I did do a little bit of go over the websites last night, and there was something that stood out to me. And I just wanted to stop because it was getting late, and I was going to do it in the morning, or now it's afternoon, and then I'm gonna go vote. So let's first start with Kamala. So like I said, I don't really want to deal with identity things, but let me go ahead and get it out the way. So just off the rip, just thinking about Kamala, I would say that if I were to vote for her, I think it will be more in line. It would make sense that I would vote for her because, quote unquote, she's Black. I'm a Black person. She's a woman, right? She went to Howard University. I'm a Howard alumni. So, from that identity standpoint, it would make sense. Like, it would definitely make sense in a lot of ways. Now, on the other side is Trump. There really isn't anything that you would think we identify with. Um, but he's a business owner, and my business is very important to me, and growing business is very important to those people who I consult and I teach. So on that side, I can see me leaning towards Trump as well, but there's some pros and cons on both sides. Let's go ahead and get into it. Go to their websites, put the identities aside, and let's just go through it from a scientific standpoint. I'm going to use systems, think about systems, and try to dissect it to come up with a decision before the polls close. So let's get started. So a way forward. Okay, so Vice President Harris grew up in a middle class home, working with the working mom. She believes that when the middle class is strong, America is strong. That's why, as president, Kamala Harris will create an opportunity economy where everyone has a choice to compete and a chance to succeed, whether they live in a rural area or a small town or a big city. Okay, so that's kind of what she's been saying. It's her stomping speech. That's what she's been saying for the most part, giving us an idea of her roots and then where she comes from that she can relate to us. But let's go ahead and go to the first thing. And I did look at this last night a little bit. So, so Vice President Harris and Governor Walz believe that working families deserve a break. That's why, under their plan, more than 100 million workers and middle class Americans will get a tax cut. Okay. They will do this by restoring tax cuts designed to help middle class and working Americans, the child tax credit and the earned income tax. So they're going to use those two vehicles to help with restoring tax incentives or giving tax incentives to Americans of this demographic. Now, through these programs, millions of Americans get to help more of their hard-earned income. They also expand the child tax credit to provide $6,000 to family with newborn children. So unlike Trump, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz are committed to ensuring no one earning less than $400,000 a year will pay more in taxes. They believe that we need to chart a new way forward by both making our tax system fair and prioritizing systems and innovation. They will ensure the wealthiest Americans and the greatest corporations pay their fair share so we can take action to build up middle class while reducing the deficit. This includes rolling back Trump's tax credits for the wealthiest Americans, enacting billionaire minimum tax, quadrupling tax buybacks, and okay, so one of the things that I think that stands out to me the most about Kamala New Way Forward when it comes to lower taxes, is that to create an opportunity economy. She says, where does she say it at? There was a place where she mentioned 25 million applications, but maybe it's later on in here. I do want to talk about this. So when it comes to like $400,000 a year, she doesn't want to increase their income. But when I think about how businesses run, and as a business owner, like I can determine my income. Like I can fluctuate my income or set my salary or based on what I want it to be. So I could qualify for this less tax. And as a business owner, there are many expenses that can be purchased for the business that can be that are borderline. So I can see businesses working through the loophole of this frame to stay under that no increased tax threshold. So I don't know if that is something that really stands out to me when I understand how business laws work. From my finite understanding, I'm not a tax accountant, but I do know from my personal experience how salary work when you're a business owner and when you can adjust your pay. So let's keep going. I thought there was an intro section. Okay. Where did it say? Am I reading the same thing? Yeah, I did last night. I am. See, that's why under their plan, more than 100 million working class Americans will get a tax cut. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. So when it comes to like tax cuts, like example, so when they gave us that money during COVID, like we got a check in the mail. I did not expect getting anything. Not that I make over that amount, but I didn't need anything. And when they sent that check, I was quite surprised, huh? I didn't think I was going to get it. I didn't have a choice in the matter. They just sent the check to us. So I just put it in savings, kind of put it away. And then fast forward a couple years later, And now we're dealing with the high price of inflation. We're dealing with grocery prices going up. And I just wonder, had they not given all that money to everyone, especially those who didn't quote unquote necessarily need it. I know sometimes you think you may need something and you hoard, but there wasn't an urgent need for my family at the time. And as of now, I'm paying more in the increase in food and fuel costs than I would have paid had we not got that check. So I'm kind of a little bit um mixed on this whole giving child tax credits, and because it's going to cost something. The money has to come from somewhere, and I don't want to be in a perpetual recession, which I do understand that Kamala has a plan to fix that. Um, so there's another thing they said in here. Let's see. No child in America should live in poverty. I do agree with that. I don't think any child should be left to be should be in poverty. But what I'm concerned with this policy alone, because she's saying middle class families, and then they're talking about low income. So they're mixing the two. They're mixing the title says middle class families, but then they're talking about children who are in poverty and anyone making less than this amount. So it just feels like to me the wording of this is very broad. Um, and it doesn't seem like it's really hitting the actual issue, but it's blanketing a broad spectrum of people who they really want to feel gravitas or galvanized to vote for this candidate. So let's keep going. There was another section. Let's go ahead and this is not the one that this is the one I was reading yesterday. It looks different. Okay, I was reading this yesterday, which is fine. And this one, she talks about um aim to spur $25 million. Where's it at? Okay. So Vice President aims to spur the creation of 25 million new business applications. Their plan includes expanding the startup expense, tax deduction for new businesses tenfold, and taking on everyday obstacles and red tape that make it harder to grow a small business. Yeah, it is hard to grow a small business, but from a systems perspective, what I believe, and I wrote about this in my book that's coming out this month, November, Mindset Mechanics, is the reason why a lot of businesses are hard to start is because let me get my son, he's on the, let him know I'm coming. One reason that I know that businesses are hard to start because we're starting them in the wrong way. And we are commoditizing our services before we even actually get a chance to start. So we're already starting out at a deficit, trying to sell product and services. And when the money comes in, it's not enough to meet our internal needs. And as a result, we're chasing money, we're chasing capital, we're chasing clients. And it makes it hard because we start off in the wrong way. And that's the system's perspective. Whenever you have a system, the system's going to always bring in energy. And the energy is going to always take care of the internal needs first, which means as a business owner, you should be taking care of yourself first, take care of your family first. And when I first started a business, I didn't think like that. Like I made sure my people and my bills were taken care of for the business going. But I didn't consider myself as part of that business, but as an outside entity that oversaw the business. But I needed to take care of myself first. That way I have the vitality and the focus and the mindset to make the right decisions. So when she says she's going to start help with red tape, a lot of that red tape is business understanding how to position themselves in business. It's not enough to start a business and to sell services and then find yourself getting tied into the day to day in the business, but actually working on the business in a way that positions you to be someone of authority and influence and power. And they're not addressing that. And I know they know this because there are a lot of business owners who know how businesses work. And if we build a business like we're a big business starting off, we're going to struggle. And and here they're saying they're going to spur the creation of 25 million new business applications. Like that doesn't really mean much to me. Like to help, I understand it's an indicator. You want to show an indicator that you want to help people get into business, but that doesn't really mean much to me when those who are starting are just going to be on a journey, but they don't have the tools they need. And mind you, I've done all the SBA, I've done all the programs, but it just wasn't enough for me to get the growth that I wanted. I did that for years until I realized, oh, wait a minute. I'm approaching business from the wrong perspective. I'm starting from the bottom, trying to build up. I gotta go from the top and come down because at any system, the energy always comes from the top down and not from the bottom up. Actually, systems that start from the bottom up theoretically don't exist. You have to supply power to that system, to that business system, to whatever system you have. And this is no different. And they're not really talking to the real issues, which is information and knowledge and how we're applying it. And as a result, there's red tape. The red tape is there because we're building wrong. And when you build it wrong, you're going to come against those obstacles that may prevent you from growing the way that you want to grow. But it's quite interesting. I think it's quite interesting. She mentioned that 25 million business applications. That doesn't really mean anything. Maybe like a million of them may actually make a profit. And so all we're doing is putting the applications in to make it look like something's done, but it doesn't really mean anything if it's not really providing profits to those owners. All right, let's keep going. In this section, there was something else that I read last night that really caught my attention. Here it is. They will invest in the competitive advantages that make America the strongest nation on earth. Our workers, innovation, and industry. So America remains a leader in the industry of the future. They will revitalize American manufacturing, strengthen our industrial base, and invest in cutting-edge technologies. Okay, so revitalize manufacturing. I do know that manufacturing has been a reason why we have succeeded where we have in this country. So I get the mindset, and a lot of companies have sit manufacturing outside of the country, which has lowered their costs, but in some cases it may have increased ours due to tariffs or import taxes or due to shipping costs. So I get that. And another thing is that if we bring these jobs back, this manufacturing back to the country, are the American people going to do the work? Because a lot of the mindset is that no one really wants to work in manufacturing. I mean, they do if they have to work, but that's not where the heart of the people are. And you got a lot of people who work in these jobs who are not happy because of the structure of the system. It begins to suck the life out of them because it's not what they really want to do. And I say that not based on an opinion, but based on my own experience. You know, working in manufacturing is hard if you don't really have a focus or a target and a purpose for why you're there, and if you don't believe in the product that you're manufacturing. So you have people who work in these factories who don't believe in the product, you know. I remember working at Kraft Foods and there was just things that didn't align with my values that as a person that was conflicting. And just to think of other Americans have to deal with the same thing every day, I don't know if revitalizing the old is the solution, but like Tesla's bringing in, the robots and that type of manufacturing, the automation, that's something that may be a benefit. But I think we definitely need more information about what she sees. Oh, I need more information because I'm the one that got to vote in an hour or so. What she sees, and it's kind of late. I know, but I've done some research, but these are just my thoughts that I've been having over the past few weeks. Um, she also mentioned strengthening the industrial base. And it's kind of funny because I believe the industrial age is winding down. Like it won't disappear completely, but we are now entering to a digital age where information technology and automation is what's driving the people. People are tired, and the industrial age has ran its course as far as being a leading base for a nation that that considered itself to be a leader. And I think we have to go back to the drawing board, shift, and pay attention to what's going on. The industrial age is not where we are. We are now entering to a digital age. And for those of you who are more spiritual and more astrological, I consider this to be what's called the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius, they talk about like things, information and love being poured out, but also there being some conflict because so there's so much things being given, there's also so much being taken as well. So I don't really understand why her focus is on strengthening the industrial base, but I get it. It's what's worked in the past. It sounds good. It's a good filler. But if I look at the landscape of our nation and the way the world is gravitating towards technology, I don't know if we need to pass the baton to other countries of it to become that industrial base, and we focus on being a leader in another sector of the global society. Just something to think about as I'm going to the polls. Another thing that I wanted to bring up that got my attention is she mentioned here invest in cutting edge technologies. I don't know what that means if we are focusing in on manufacture. I guess she's talking about like automation and things like that to make the work simpler, but I just don't understand. I never really heard her talk in more detail of what she means by that. I have an idea, but I don't want to assume. And then the last thing I brought in this paragraph that stood out to me was she says they will create a workforce program that will work for all Americans and strengthen the care economy, opening pathways for middle class for more Americans that don't require degrees. Okay, so when I hear care economy, I'm thinking of an economy that cares, or maybe she means like a healthcare program where like people can. I don't know what that means. That care economy. It sounds loaded. I don't really know what that means, unfortunately. But I know when I hear it, how it makes me feel is, I guess, an economy that's built on things that matter, things that involve care, like health care, Medicare, child care, and making sure they're getting paid enough to enter to the middle class. I don't know. But she didn't really get a chance to talk about these things during the debates and in her speeches. They've always focused on frivolous things, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Um, but I understand, I do like the fact that she says that do not require a college degree, but she stops short and doesn't mention trades. So that's something that stood out to me. And I know you can't get everything right, but she mentions not having a college degree. But we don't want, in my mind, I don't want a society of high paid people or a well paid middle class that's ignorant, right? I'm not saying that college is the answer for everyone, but I do think that having a trade brings a level of expertise and specialization that they can become a special person in society by having that specialization, that thing that they can go to that they know and they have mastered. um, and it helps them analyze and think critically about other parts of society. But if we have a high paid society that lacks education, I don't think that's the pathway that I want to see our country go in. I think it's very important that we become educated. And education is not in the traditional sense, but in the sense that we have to become specialized in our knowledge. And then, of course, expand and continue to grow that knowledge. So that stood out to me as well. Um, I'm going to, let's see if I can take a moment because my son is calling me. The degrees in college. Okay, so I can appreciate that they are trying to get more people into the middle class, but my concern is that the middle class needs to be educated. Doesn't mean they go to college, but they have trades and they have professions and something. Okay. All right. And they will protect Medicare and Social Security and Medicare against relentless attacks from Donald Trump and his extreme allies, and will strengthen these programs for long haul so that Americans don't count on retiring with, and they can count on retiring with dignity and setting the benefits they've earned and getting the benefit they earn. So I think this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, they bring in, Trump. I don't think it was necessary bringing Trump's name into this section. But two, from my understanding, the Social Security Administration doesn't have enough money to for the program, and neither does Medicare. So I think it's quite interesting that they are definitely trying to keep this program alive. I don't know all the fiscal numbers, but I do know that it's at risk of not meeting its obligations, and a system that cannot meet its needs is at risk of breaking down. So I don't know about that section. It sounds good, but based on what I know, I don't know if I totally believe this as being a promise they can live on or stand on. All right, so let's keep going about Kamala's campaign. Chapter 1, cut taxes for working people. And I kind of talked about a little bit. I mentioned that, I got the credit, the $3,600 per but I didn't really expect it. And now I wonder how much of this is playing into the inflation we're feeling today. Um, they also mentioned, so here it's worded different. It says cut taxes for working people before it said middle class. So they definitely are considering the middle class working people. And I don't think the middle class feel that they're working people, but maybe they do. I don't know if it matters. This project 2025, like I think that's divisive. I think that bringing that up, I don't think it's relevant, but some people may think that it is. I've read a little bit of the agenda. Didn't really strike me as anything that's alarming. I didn't get emotional about it. I think that's what it was. I didn't get emotional. I wasn't triggered. Um, but I do understand the fears that people have. Because on the one hand, we live in a society that's a melting pot. But as a melting pot, the country has to have values and standards that they live by and behaviors they want to see the people demonstrate. And I don't see that as being I don't see any strong values on the Kamala Walk side. It's more of, really open, really liberal. But at the same time, I know that you can't force people to live a certain kind of way. Because these are Christian ideals. You can't like force people to to love God. You can't force them to raise their children a certain kind of way. But at the same time, I do believe on both sides there are things we can agree on. Like, what do we agree on? And that should be the focus, not on the divisive, traditional religious ideals, but on the values that make us American, the things we can agree on, the behaviors we do want to see, and we can all agree on. Like for children should be protected. So what can we do? What can we agree on to demonstrate that these are the behaviors we want? And I don't think that is being displayed. For example, I'll give a clear example. Like, I disagree with the whole idea of gender identity in schools. Like, that just does not agree with me at all. Neither do I agree with abortion, but that's more for myself. I don't believe it for myself. I cannot judge someone else in their situation and in um their predicted where they find themselves at. But I think it's hard for me to call myself a child of God. And it's not scientific. This is more of just me talking on ideology, and not align myself with what God believes. Just because I believe that something is wrong doesn't mean I'm going to force you to do what I believe. Just a value that I have. But I cannot judge one situation. And neither should I make it hard for that person to get the help that they feel they need. Um, but at the same time, we do have to figure out what do we agree on and focus on that. And I think that's what the government is overstepping. You cannot overstep in people's private lives. You cannot force them to live a certain kind of way. But we do have to decide, like, who are we? Where do we want to go, and what's important to us? And what are the values that we want to push forward? And that's what's happening right now. We're having an ideological shift. And the reason why I'm voting, because I'm hearing that we really are kind of in a tie right now. They're definitely pushing that we're in a tie, and no one wants to hear that. So at the end of the day, it's like, if I don't vote, there's no telling what could happen, but I need to be a consensus to kind of help break that tie to go from one way or another. So I don't really think that this Project 2025 is a talking point. Not that it doesn't alarm me, or that it not that it resonates with me, but because it's divisive. And I think that is not really demonstrative of what Trump believes. I believe that he may believe some things in here, but I don't think that he's all into everything that this agenda um, purports, or speaks about. But so I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm gonna keep going, just keep going on the policies that I see her and him writing down. All right, so he mentions here, let's see, the expansion of child tax credit. Okay, I mentioned that earlier. A new $6,000 tax cut to help families pay for the high cost of childcare in the first year of life. I get that. I get it. But here's what I'm thinking. On the Democratic side, it seems like their their approach is to give, give, and keep giving the money to the people, or taking from this group and giving to that group, kind of to reallocate the money. And I don't think that's necessarily the way that I see America. I really feel that we should make it more accessible for everyone to be able to live a quality of life. For example, water. Why are we paying water bills? I mean, water should be included in the tax we pay. It should be something that we don't have to worry about, something like that that benefits the whole group. Or, for example, electricity. I understand that as a business person, we want to make a profit, but energy should be accessible to everybody. And to be threatened to have your light bill turned off doesn't really sit well with me as a human in American society. But I get the business side of it, but they're just things that we make it hard for people who are having a hard time. Um, we're making it hard for them to live. But I also believe that our values are so skewed and we're so all over the place, and we're not focused on, what could make the biggest difference with the least amount of financial stress or strain. And that, for example, is our education system. I'm alluded to that before. The way we're educating our children is missing the mark. People are getting lost in the system. Children are getting left behind. Children are bored. Children's true talents are not being expressed. Um, Children are being segmented based on their financial income. Not that it's wrong or right, it's not an even playing field. And we have teachers who are talented and who are skilled at what they do, who are not being compensated for what we believe is our most prized resource, which are children. So our values don't match our what we're saying. We're not walking what we talk. We're not putting it where we're putting our money where our heart is. So it's a mix of values in America. I think that's what I see on the Harris side. I see a mix of value. Don't match. The values don't match the actions. And the reason why I say this, I'm thinking of it from a system. Instead of breaking it down, each chapter, each component, each policy, I'm looking at it from the entire system perspective. Because I write about this, and I'll give you guys a link if you're interested in reading that book. It talks more about business systems and how to get a business to operate the way that you want, but it's universal principles that can apply to any system. And when I think of a system, you have to look at, what are the inputs and what are the outputs. And if things are being poured into a system, but it's not behaving the way that you want it to, then you have to stop and think, okay, where is it aligned? Are things in the proper place? Now are the components operating if they should? What's the quality of the input? If the input is low quality, you can't expect to get high quality out. You're only going to get what you put in. And if we're putting in bare minimum into our children, it's no wonder why they struggle with reading, they struggle with math, they struggle with comprehension, because we're not putting our true resources where they matter. And when it comes to a system, in order to innovate a system, it has to have a renewal of energy, a renewal of information, a renewal of data to keep it moving, to keep it alive. And if we're not allowing our children to get the information they need to continue to innovate society, continue to innovate their families, continue to innovate, what will make society better, we're doing them a disservice. And then we turn around and we wonder why They wonder why we get what we get because we're not giving what we can give. Where everyone's out for themselves and they say they look for the future, but the actions don't match the behaviors. And a system that's out of alignment cannot accelerate. A system that's out of alignment cannot build momentum. So, as a society, we can't accelerate. We can't call ourselves the best if our values are out of alignment with our structure, if our values are out of alignment with our beliefs, if our values are out of alignment with our vision. We have so many fragmented ideas of what America should be. We cannot move forward with any sustainability the way we're going. We're going in two different directions as a society, and it's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate, and that's why I decided I better vote, even though I didn't want to, because neither one's a savior. Like there are things on Kamala's side that I do not agree with. She's not going to save America. I don't think there's going to be any major changes. Um, on the Trump side, I don't think he's a savior either. I don't think that there's he's I don't think there's anything he can do that they would allow him to do, even if he wasn't president, and vice versa. Kamala too. You have too much opposition because they're focusing on a portion of a nation versus focusing on the people. If you really are focusing on all the people, then you will focus on the issues that affect all people, not just the ones that affect a segment of society. That's for both candidates. So from a systems perspective, I think our values are out of alignment. I think that we cannot have any acceleration momentum unless we change how we're doing things. And I do believe that if a system continues to pour and pour and pour, and this internal system consumes so much, then it has nothing left to produce value to the world. So we continue to take the resources for our internal needs with the energy that we've been given, whatever energy that, whether it's our tax money, whether it's fossil fuel, whether it's renewable energy, whether it's water resources, whatever the input is that feeds our system. If we take more than what, and we don't produce anything in return, then eventually that entire system is going to run out of resources. It's going to run out of what it needs because it's over consuming. So in science or engineering, a system that's over consuming is not a good system. Like if you have a car and it's a gas guzzler, you have to make a decision. Do you need to replace this vehicle or replace the components that's causing this gas to be consumed at such an astronomical rate? Well, I liken the society, our American system, to that. You know, we are over consuming, we're overeating, we're overproducing, we are over purchasing, we're doing too much, and we expect the resources to be there at a future date. I mean, landfills, we're running out of space of landfills, we're selling trash to other countries. Like, it makes absolutely no sense from a systems perspective, from a scientific physics perspective. The system is unsustainable, and everyone's saying that, but we're not doing anything about it. And I think the president is just the voice of the direction we want to take our society. And I don't necessarily feel that giving people money is the answer. I think that I do like how, from what I'm seeing on the Trump side, where he's more focused on the environment. He's more focused on creating an environment where everyone can come and get what they need and then do their portion and produce. So he's creating an environment versus giving people things so much. He's more on the environmental side of creating giving the resources, making them available. But here's the problem. I I do see the fact that what if Trump makes reduces the red tape, or if he makes it more accessible to do X, Y, or Z, right? So if I have to travel to North Dakota to get the minerals I need to run my manufacturing plant, but I don't have the shoes, I don't have the cloth, I don't have the clothes, I don't have the resources to get there, I'm going to miss out. Because even though it's available, those who have the and monetary means and the resources, they're the ones going to get first they're going to be the first to get there and to be able to consume those resources and leave what's left for the rest of us. And that's where the challenge is. Like, how do you regulate and making sure that everyone has access to the same resources, meaning get them there, at least get everyone there as well. Don't just make it available, but make it so that everyone can actually get to the resources to be able to change their family structure, be able to build more businesses, be able to create more energy. But if only the big companies can afford or have the information and knowledge to reach the environmental resources that they need, then it's defeatist. And I see why people get upset. They get upset and say, "Oh, Trump is only supporting, his richest friends and his billionaire partners." I get that because they have the resources to get there. Doesn't make it right or doesn't make it wrong, but I can understand why they would think that the Trump's best interest is not for the people because it's not being regulated with red tape as what would happen more with a Democratic Party. They do more regulation, try to manage the flow of resources to different segments of society. So it's a hard choice because no one wants to make the wrong choice, right? I see the pros on both sides. I see the cons on both sides. But I'm gonna leave Kamala with that. What I see when I read through some of this last night. Um, it's more focused on getting the resources to a targeted segment of society by infusing money and resources. But my concern is at what cost? At what cost? You don't want to feed people, you want to teach them how to fish and feed themselves. And I think the Democratic Party has good intentions, but I don't think that it is the best approach. I think a better approach would be to focus on our children. And if we want to change the next 50 years, you don't do it so much by supplying what you don't do it by meeting the needs of the generation that exists. You focus on the children. If you pour into the children and fix what we got wrong, 50 years from now, we'll be back on course. We have to focus on the children if we want to make the next 50 years more sustainable by fixing what we already know is broken. But let's keep going. So let's talk about Trump. So let's go through his. So this is first one, rebuild the greatest economy in America or in history. So rebuild the economy. So Trump passed the record tax relief middle class tax credit. So he's taking credit for the child tax credit. Okay. It happened during his administration, whatever. Real wages quickly increased as a result. Median household income reached its highest level. President Trump created nearly 90,000 opportunity zones to revitalize communities. Trump produced a booming economy and record low employment for African Americans. The Biden heritage is the destroyer of American jobs. See, he's doing the same thing she did. They're attacking the other party, I guess, to build credibility for themselves. and to show the difference. I guess it's actually a approach, and that's why politics is so divisive. You know, it's so divisive. But we're gonna look at the policy. We're gonna ignore the negative talk and focus on the policy. So he's just giving credit what he's done in the past. That's fine. Let's keep going. So already I'm seeing a difference. So on the first point for Kamala, it's pretty long. Like it's a lot of text there. Whereas Trump has this one paragraph and then a picture. So, and then Kamala's has lots of numbers and data. So I see on the Trump side, it's more right brain thinking. And on the Kamala side, they're using more left brain thinking. And what I mean is this: the left brain is very logical. The left brain is very um, organized and very methodical. So I see a lot of numbers and data and statistics and facts and charts and graphs, right? But on the Trump side, the wording is even different. The wording is more simplified, it's more concise, not as many numbers. Definitely, very, very not dumbed down language, but very the language is enough for an eighth grader to understand. And then a picture. We know a picture's worth 1,000 words. So he's saying something and then giving you a picture to put him in the mind of the reader that he's presidential. So I see that. Um, Fair trade for the American worker. Let me see, which one did I want to go over that kind of deals with. There was one he had about energy. Okay, here's one. Under President Donald J. Trump's leadership, the United States became the number one producer of oil and natural gas, unlocked country's God-given abundance in oil. So this is the thing that I'm having a problem with this oil thing. I thought I read somewhere, and I was reading in the Bible that they had oil, but I know they have like olive oil. But I'm trying to think where they had like fruit oil. I'm gonna go back and look. I thought I read it somewhere, but maybe I misunderstood. But I thought I read that there was something in there. It was considered a wealth. But at any rate, from an engineering perspective, I know that we have lots of ways of cleaning oil, from crude oil to, to natural gas to diesel. So we have different levels of cleaning oil, and it's the cleaning process that causes a lot of the environmental challenges that people complain about. It's a cheap oil. It's cheaper than most because it's a low quality oil. But through the refining process, it becomes more expensive. It becomes more valuable. Um, and I miss something that's considered. I get it because we are in debt as a nation. So we might need to focus on a cheaper oil. But let's just think about that. Like if you're driving a Kia, nothing wrong with Kia, it takes a certain type of octane, right? It's a 90, 89 probably. And then you may be driving a Lamborghini or Mercedes that may take, a super or supreme quality fuel. Um, you don't want to mix those fuel types, right? And you don't want to say that you are the best country in the world, but actually you're just a Kia. Like we can no longer say that we are America, we are the leading nation in the world if our energy quality, the quality of our energy is low. Whereas renewable energies and cleaner energies and solar energy is a higher quality energy that would merit saying that we are leaders and we are innovative and we are, advancing. So that's where I have a conflict with Trump. I get the fuel. I get it. I get the fuel. We were in debt. It's low energy. It's been here for a long time. But from it, I do consider it a more dirty fuel. Um, I do consider it, a low quality fuel type. And I think it's a lot of times it might be linked to some of the illnesses we're dealing with in our society because the energy we bring in to our system is fueling everything that we do. And what impact is it having on the people, on the energy sources versus a cleaner type of energy? With that being stated, I do think they are profiting off renewable energy. And a lot of renewable energies don't make sense. Like renewable cars, of course, I love the idea of having a renewable car. Hybrids are more practical in my mind with that gas redundancy. But I just think that we have to really think about this whole energy dominance thing. We can't say we're dominant if we are still stuck on the old energy. But I get it though. I mean, if I can go back and find that scripture that talked about crude oil or black oil, I forget what it said. I got a feeling I read it. I got to go back and look for it. It may have mentioned, had an alternative name for the oil. But at any rate, I have a feeling that there is a scripture in the Bible that deals with this, that may make me feel a little bit better. But at any rate, if it's not there, if it's not what I think it is, I don't think that oil, crude oil should be our only source. We should definitely diversify our mix, but at the same time, it has to make sense because when you start going to a better quality fuel type, it does cost more. It's a premium. So right now, we don't have the money to be spending on premium fuel right now. And it might make sense to deal with, the fossil fuels a bit longer until we can and I don't think it'll go anywhere. I really don't think we can get off of fossil fuel with the consumption rate of American energy system and our people. But at any rate, I do think it's something that we should consider is that okay, we do need oil, we need fuel, we need it at a low cost, but there is a trade-off. The trade-off from a system perspective of having low quality energy. And you can't have low in a system, you can't have low quality energy and expect high quality back out. There is definitely a process to refine that oil to get to the standard that merit to be a higher quality. So I mean, I don't think everyone understands that the energy quality does matter as in anything. But I did notice that about Trump. Something I didn't really agree with. But something we definitely should consider. But more is our overconsumption of energy is more of my concern. I'll do one more before I head out to the polls and make my decision. Let's see. Care for our veterans. Again, he got a picture that's, I guess, conveying what he's trying to say. One thing I would say is that Trump is a better marketer or the Republicans are better at marketing than the Democrats. When I look at the word choices, the imagery, um, it's just lacking on the Democratic side. And I know they have to have people who are savvy at marketing to help. I just don't understand why the language gets lost in translation. It's almost as if the Democrats don't care that we understand or that most people understand what they're saying. They have so much convolution in the words. It makes me wonder. And I don't know. I mean, I would consider myself to be a Democrat, although I questioned that when I got out of college. A friend of mine were talking about if we're Democrat or Republican, and we were like, we don't know, because we were told, that we were black and we're Democrats, and but what if we're Republican? And at this point, I'm just going by what resonates most with me. And I noticed that the way the Democrats talk is very convoluted. The word choices are very it doesn't make any sense sometimes. Like just get to the point, explain what you're trying to explain. Versus on the Republican side, it's very more to the point, more succinct, more deliberate. So, okay, President Trump passed the largest reform of the Department of VA in generation, put VA accountability, VA choice, and fired this many federal workers who failed to give our wounded warriors equality and time. Did he though? I don't remember that many people getting fired. I worked in the federal government, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know how true this is. But he's taking credit for it. Okay. He secured, it could be retirees, all that I know. They didn't replace, they could be retirees and they didn't replace the workers, They may have forced them out to early retirement. He secured record funding for medical health services and expanded access to telehealth and suicide prevention resources to secure the blessing of freedom of those who risk their lives to defend it. President Trump decreased veteran homelessness, increased educational benefits, and achieved record low veteran unemployment. We will fight for our veterans, but mm, uh, I mean, there's nothing there that strikes me. Nothing that I don't. I get it's where his values lie at. I get it, but the military family, I don't really see anything that is policy. It's just telling me where he's going to be doing or what his values lie. Um, but not what he's going to be doing, unless he's going to do some of the same things he wants to do before. Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't know, y'all. This is and let me make sure I'm clear. It's not that I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I have a clear idea who I'm going to vote for. My concern is that is it the right choice? Because no one wants to be wrong. No one wants their candidate to lose. But when you can see the negatives and positive in both candidates, and you're undecided this late in the game, and you kind of removed yourself, like, whatever, I'll vote if I vote, but no, I don't. That's a problem. I know it's a problem. But at the same time, we can't demonize people for not wanting to be a part of this process because this process is broken. They spent so much money in this election cycle, it makes absolutely no sense. No sense. Billions. 15.6 billion, I believe I saw, versus I guess 15.1 last year. So it's similar or last election. It's more, but not too much more. It's just that we're spending too much. We're over consuming. And it doesn't take all that to run. I don't think it takes all that. But I guess people gotta get paid. Events gotta be booked. Security has to be hired. I get it. But I don't know. It's like I really want to like Trump. And this is that I'm gonna go identity a little bit. I want to like Trump, but then there's parts of him that I don't like. But I understand it's a character that he's playing sometimes. But I understand him more than I understand Kamala. So they're both risky candidates. They are both risky candidates. I have to go. I have to make a choice. The polls close in a few hours. I don't want to wait till the last minute. But Kamala, I don't think she's stupid. They want to put her out as being stupid. I don't think she's stupid. I think she's very bright. I don't think she is um very charismatic. I don't think that's her strength. but that doesn't mean she wouldn't become a good president. I think she understands that we live in a melting pot and there are people among us who don't feel a part of the system. I think that she understands that that's it's her job to bring them into the system, make them feel like they are a part of the American dream, and I guess give opportunity. But I just I just have a problem with some of the values on both sides and being being scientific and not emotional about it. I think both sides are very emotional, very emotional. And this election can go either way. I am just torn, unfortunately. And with that, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna go to the polls, make my decision, and I'm gonna do what feels right with my values. Who speaks more to what kind of America I want to live in? Um, who reflects, ideals that I see as most advantageous for me. I'm not. At one point, I was one that would vote for everybody else. At this point, I'm voting for me. And you could vote for everybody else if you want to, but I'm voting for me. What works best for me and what resonates best with me. Because at the end of the day, I have to live the choice I make. And if we all just voted for our own best interest, then it will even out in the wash what people want country to go in, what direction we want to go in. Whether we want to be more of a debtor society or if we want to be more of a recluse economy to ourselves. So, I don't know. Anyways, I spent long enough from this chat on this YouTube thing. I'm gonna get off, and I hope you all have taken time to vote. Make sure you Google. And if you don't vote, it don't matter to me. Do what you gotta do. I just know for myself, I didn't want this to be a tie. It shouldn't be a tie. It really shouldn't be. It's ridiculous. But at any rate, I'm one of the undecided voters, and I think it's only best that I put my voice into the hat and let's see what happens, y'all. Rock and roll.